How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massa Beer Reviews, back with a little bit of side-by-side, courtesy of my boy Max, in the form of Abomination Brewing, their Vic Secret versus their Sabro. Abomination. I am quite familiar with them. It's kind of fun to get a beer mail from up in New England area of beers from a brewery that I'm quite familiar with. I mean, nothing wrong with that. They get quite wide distribution, a part of that kind of 12% beer project network. But I've known Josh. There's Josh and Joe. I believe Joe's the other owner of Abomination. I've known Josh for quite a bit, from brewing in the area, just going to beer events. He bartended at a local brew pub, stuff like that. And, he's been brewing beer for quite a long time, and I've done a bunch of their beers. You could look it up on my on my past review, some of his homebrew-based stuff, to some of his actual non-homebrew-based stuff. There's more like production-based stuff. So it's kind of cool to see those guys kind of start to make good and start to produce something that I think a lot of people are kind of digging. I mean, I had a couple of people tell me these things are pretty good, so I'm pumped to dive into them, because it's been a while since I've had one of their kind of base hazy IPAs. A lot of their stuff has been stouts or adjunct-based stuff or kind of collabby weirdness. So to have like a single hop, what I assume is single hop based beers with Vic Secret and Sabro should be quite fun. So let's just crack into these suckers. I don't think there's much else on here to read. There's double IPAs. They are 6.4, one's package 6.4 and one's package 6.2. So I assume these are the 8.6%. I assume these are exactly the same beers. Just they got, different hop additions at different times, because they kind of came out of the tanks and got canned relatively similar timing wise. So we'll see what's what. And, I guess I call these verses. It's not really a versus thing. It's just kind of tasting back and forth. I'm not really going to tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you which one I like better, but it's not a matter of being like, this one dominates that one. It's just, it's interesting to see what I assume is kind of like the same beers and how those different schedules and whatnot changes. Because even 4 days change in canning time, it's going to change things. But as far as the beers look in general, they look relatively similar. Let's call it. They look exactly similar. So we're just going to dive right in. It's kind of fun. This is the Vic Secret. I'm getting like this cool berry vibe off of this. Like cool berry, like almost like a berry bubblegum. It's kind of what I'm getting. Don't really call out berry all that much in beers. It's got this nice kind of like, it's not, I don't want to see this in a negative way, because it's not like it's synthetic and not in a negative way. Like blueberry bubblegum. You know what I mean? Like old, like cereal blueberries. That, not nearly as sweet or confectionery, but that kind of berry kind of nose on it with a little bit of soft kind of bubblegum vibes. When I say bubblegum, I'm reaching more for that kind of powdery confectionery thing you'd come to expect when it comes to bubblegum. A little bit of soft green, sharp little green. A bit of sweetness. Done and done. See how this Sabro treats me. Much different nose on this one. Like crazy different. I did not expect it to come out that way. I mean, Sabro's a much different hop than Vic Secret, but it's just a soft little. A lot of people lean into the coconut thing when it comes to Sabro, for good measure, because Sabro typically produces that close kind of facsimile of what coconut gives, but I'm not getting that here. I'm getting something that's a bit more tropical fruit, an unripened kind of like kiwi thing or something like that. Yeah, it's weird. It's not like a super sweet kind of tropical fruit juicy thing going on. It's more of like an underripened kind of kiwi had a baby with an underripened pear kind of thing going on. Maybe, yeah. It's fun. This one over here, much more muted, a little bit less sweet on the nose. Over here, a little bit more impactful. With that in mind, they do smell like more like 6% kind of hazies, not like this big, bold, over-the-top kind of 8.5%, 8.6% kind of hazies. So they smell the part of a nice hazy IPA, just kind of a little bit punching below its weight class, at least in the nose. Let's dive in. Cheers. I mean, that kind of follows through from the nose of the taste. It's sweet leaning. It's definitely, there's a decent amount of residual sugar in there, so it's a sweet hazy. But it's not nearly like over the top crazy sweet as some of these new school hazies kind of do nowadays. That kind of blueberry bubblegum thing definitely follows through into the taste. Absolutely fun. That sweetness kind of elevates that, makes you even think more of the blueberry bubblegum thing. There's that sharp green is still there, but it's less green in the nose would lead you to believe. It's a little bit more kind of prickly, kind of bitterness on the taste. It's weird too because it actually has initially kind of a full mouthfeel, but it kind of finishes quick, finishes thin, not in an overtly negative way. Kind of leads into the next taste because when it finishes thin like that and you add that bittering in, it dries out a little bit. It's not drying, just dries out a little bit, makes you want to go for another sip. It's fun. It's tasty. The carbonation has a little bit of that carbonic acid thing, and I'm not a big fan of, but it's not super heavy-handed, so I'm not going to sit here and knock it for that. That's a fun beer. I'm kind of pumped about this one. Cheers. Okay. So here's the thing. I think and this is the hardest thing when you do these kind of side-by-sides. One more. Where'd I put that? Got a palate cleanser here. Like a 4% smoke fooder. Hellas lager. Cleanse your palate. Much more reserved. That's the word I want to use. Reserved beer over here. Something just popped on my screen. Was there shit on my screen over there? Anyway. Yeah, much more reserved over here. I think I'd like this beer better if I didn't drink this beer first, if that makes any sense, because this one's much more bold, much more aggressive. Still drinking smaller than 8.6. This is drinking like a 6-9% hazy. This is more like a 6 even kind of thing, but I don't know why I put this one here and this one here. If I flip these over, I start with this one. I think it's a much better side-by-side, and that's where these kind of are a little bit obviously not scientifically based kind of things that I do here. But I think I would like this one more than this one because I'd be going from this to this back and forth as opposed to back and forth this way. Anyway, this one's quite a bit more kind of reserved is the word I want to use. I don't want to use muted. It's showing that kind of underripened tropical fruit. That little bit of that pear thing I'd probably knock out. It'd be like an underripened peach then. With a little bit of sweetness. Definitely way more sweeter over here. Which is kind of interesting. Because I'd assume they'd be the same base beers. But they don't come off that way. You know? Maybe I'd bring that pear back in the discussion over here. So I'm getting this weird little white pear thing on it too. But it's just a way more... not heavy-handed version of a double IPA. And just a little bit more adulty, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I think they're really tasty beers. I mean, both of them have that little bit of carbonic acid thing, but again, it's so minimal. It's kind of like just a side note, an anecdote I have to mention when I get it. Other than that, I mean, what I would assume would be similar beers. I mean, it's a fog. It's a single hop version of the fog. I assume they're similar base, but this one's sweeter, more aggressive, albeit not as aggressive as what most 8.6% beers could or should be. But it shows this cool kind of berry, kind of fun bubblegummy thing. Over here, you're getting a bit more reserved, depending on kind of unripened fruit, not nearly as sweet, even though it's still the sweet beer. I like them. I think they're really fun, and honestly, some of the better shelfies I've had as far as hazies in a while. I mean, everything's a shelfie right now, so I shouldn't even really be calling beers like this is a shelfie, this isn't. But I know Abomination stuff was readily available on shelves prior to COVID. So it's kind of like, if I'm picking this up off a shelf for a reasonable price, gonna kind of be really happy with either of these. Depending on where your loyalties lie, most people will probably be happier with this one. This is probably a little bit more my speed, but it's cool to see the difference, the variance between the two hop additions in a relatively similar beer. It makes for pretty damn good fun. Yeah. New England-ish style hazies, because that bitterness is there, so it's not true New England. But yeah, I dig them. So let's talk about them. Are these some of the better hazy IPAs I've had as of late? Double IPAs? Yeah. I mean, they're not Mount Rushmore sets, but they're absolutely delicious. And just the variance between the two are fun as hell. Value availability. Availability. Like I said, I could get their beers before COVID happened on the shelf. So it's always been a brewery that was semi-readily available to me. Is that because 12% Beer Project gets their beers out there quite a bit? I think that's part of it. Is a part because these guys live 10 minutes away from me? Part of it too, I would assume. Price point is kind of where it jumps the shark. 12%, and it's not them. This is more 12% Beer Project. Their pricing tends to be quite aggressive. So 8.6% double IPA from 12% Beer Project is probably going to be in my area of New Jersey, $18-19 for a 4-pack. It's a little bit too big for me for a base distilled beer. That's me talking. But if Max, you want to chime in, let me know what you paid, and leave you with if you like what we like these. If you like new school hazies, you're not afraid of a little bit of bittering, and you like hop fuck duckery, because that's what's going on here. You're getting a base beer, you have two different hops doing their thing in kind of surprising ways. I mean, Vic Secret's kind of doing that, and it's done it before, but Sabro kind of show a little bit different here. So it just goes to show you how things can change. So if you like a little bit of fuck duckery and a little bit of hop deliciousness, not going to go wrong here. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. Want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of Abomination jams. Oh, I got to do the cuvee. I forgot to do that before I go. So hopefully you waited to the end of the video. I always forget to do these. God damn it. You know what the best part about this is waiting to the absolute last second is? Someone's going to yell at me for not doing this. And then I can yell at them, going, oh, wait, I did, at the tail end. So go fuck yourself. It's good, but it's kind of like, this loses its kind of blueberry personality, and this loses its kind of soft edginess. So don't cuvee these. We do it for science. So there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.